Welcome to the EPG Pathshala's course on mental health. Today we're going to be talking about creative arts in mental health, which is a very interesting conversation that I would like to have with you. My name is Rosanna and I work with Khula Asman Trust in Mumbai, which is a creative arts space, and we work with individuals in distress, including women and men in prison, children in remand or observation homes, special homes, girls who've been rescued and living in special homes and rescue homes. We also work with an open community, which is Lalubai Compound in Mankhurd, which is a marginalized space in many ways. And we work only with the creative, powerful tool of art. So with that introduction, I would like to talk to you about the course structure, some of the objectives that we would cover. One thing that we're going to really look at is locating oneself in the process of healing and transformation. I'm going to encourage you to reflect within. So really we're going to look at self-reflection. We're going to look at and understand the role and impact of creative arts in the field of mental health. And I'm also going to introduce you to various forms of creative arts as therapeutic tools through stories, anecdotes, and a conversation. And last but not least, I am going to try and introduce to you the therapeutic process and how you would build that. Before we start this, I'm hoping that you've already done your modules on mental health and you've understood the concepts of mental health. But anyway, let's just do a recap. So I have put some questions together. They are reflection points for you, of course. The first question is, what do I understand by the term mental health? Second, who decides what is mental illness and what is mental health? How does one account for variations of culture? Means what? Means in a different culture and context, something that is accepted and known will be different in a different culture. For example, over here, even after 18, we live with our parents, and sometimes we get married and still live with our parents because there is that bond. But in many Western cultures, once a child or an individual has crossed 18 years of age, they will be encouraged to be independent and move out into their own home. And that is also okay. But what is considered normal here may not be considered normal there. So that's a variation of culture. Is segregation the answer to mental health promotion? Segregation means when you move something away from a whole. Like if you have a nice cake and you pick up one piece and put it in a corner. It is part of the same cake, but you have put it in the corner. That is segregation. Segregation will look like institutionalization, mental hospitals where people are kept away. Are we really saying that that is an answer or the only answer? Questions for reflection. Is it enough to only revert to a state of being cured? Means no more symptoms? Is that enough? Are we saying medication is the only answer? And here are the self-reflection questions. What drives me? I really want you to think about that. Where is it that I'm coming from? Why have I signed up for this course? What do I want to take away? What is it that fuels my interest in working in this field? Is it the idea that makes me question what makes people ill? Or do I also want to know what keeps people healthy? Another question, self-reflection. As a practitioner, do I look at the various factors affecting health and mental health? The social determinants of health and mental health? Or am I only looking at the biological or the neurological? Am I looking at it in a narrow lens and way? And the last one, this is a bit of a heavy one. Are we waiting for people to fall sick? Are we waiting for people to be ill before we can intervene? How can we promote positive mental health? These are some questions that I just want you to spend maybe a minute. You can pause the video and just think about what these questions mean for you. In the meantime, I'm going to put up some accepted definitions of mental health that have been given to us. Mental health is described as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities. So that self-awareness needs to be there. Who am I? What am I capable of? in which the individual can cope with the normal stresses of life. So we're not saying that there's no stress. There will be stress. But is this person able to deal with that stress and move forward, achieve, contribute, do what they need to do? And the next part of this definition says where this person can work productively and fruitfully and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. What does it mean to work productively and fruitfully? There would be some compensation for the work that one is doing, a monetary compensation. There would be a sense of fulfillment, joy, pride in one's work. And of course, the last part of this definition is and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. This is a very interesting and holistic definition of what is mental health. It looks at a lot of factors within and without, internal and societal. But I would like to ask you, whose responsibility would it be to make sure that these things happen, that the external factors are in place, that someone is able to access the kind of education or employment options that allow this person to be productive and feel fulfilled and make a contribution? Let's reflect on that as well. I still like this definition of mental health. I think it is also stressed very much in the WHO definition of health, which says that health is a state of complete physical, mental and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So again, one of the questions that I asked you earlier, are we only looking at curing people or is there something more? And this definition is telling us it's not only the absence of disease, but there is something more. Complete physical, mental and social well-being. And what does that look like for people? I would like you to read these definitions, especially the parts I've highlighted in red, and really think about what you understand as mental health or mental illness. Look at examples in your context and society that would reflect or make you think about more within this context. And the last definition that's put forth by Keyes, and I like what he says here. He says that mental health is not the absence of a mental disorder, which is what we learn now, that it is, if you don't have a disorder, you're not ill. But what Keyes is saying is, it is also the presence of sufficiently high levels of well-being. And we'll talk more about this definition a little later. I want you to think about where you locate yourself. See, different people approach the concept of mental health in different ways. One way would be the pathogenic approach, which looks at what are the factors that make people sick? How can we remove these factors that make people sick? How can we work with these factors that make people sick? But the focus is on people being sick. And I think what Keyes also tried to bring out in his definition, and what several researchers are now talking about, is the salutogenic approach, which looks at what keeps people healthy and how can I make more of this happen? How can I create spaces for people to access higher levels of well-being, higher and better levels of health? So that is a completely different approach. I want you to think about where you would want to locate yourself. Just think about it. It's good to reflect. Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. And I think that's something that's going to really help us understand what the next couple of slides are going to be about if we keep that quote in mind. So now we're going to start about the creative art part, and we're going to have fun doing this, okay? I want you to think about something, and you can write this down if you have a pen and a paper. How do I respond and react to extreme situations, extreme emotions? What are some of the things you would see yourself do if you were extremely angry or sad or confused or nervous? In my experience, people will start to hum a song, especially when they are scared sometimes. Some people do a little dance. Some people start drawing. And sometimes even on question papers, when we are answering exams, I've seen people draw on the question papers like little flowers, this and that. Some people start drumming a beat with their hands, snapping, writing, journaling, blogging nowadays, sharing what is happening with you through photos, through art. What is this telling us? This is telling us that a lot of times in moments of distress, people do allow a creative side of them to emerge. And we're going to look at why a little later. I also want to ask you this question: what is art? And think about that. What does art mean to you? I remember many years ago when I was new to this field, and I would think art means someone has to be a proper painter, selling proper paintings, proper published author. But I've learned in time that art is about creation and creating and allowing yourself to create in the absence of all of these formal structures of what you think art is and these perceptions and ideas that you have, but just the process of allowing yourself to create is art. With that, let's talk about creative arts in mental health. Art as a tool for expression is not new at all. I mean, even the prehistoric cave drawings are the ancient man, the prehistoric man, communicating with us even today about what his life was like, what were his stressors and his stories and his contexts, and who was he angry with, and what was the biggest thing that he had to deal with. And that, I think, what these prehistoric cave drawings that we've seen in childhood on TV here and there, I think what they represent is man's need to talk and express even in the absence of language, to record what is going on and to create. I think that's something that's really beautiful. Art, creative art as a tool for healing, began as a discipline in around the 1940s, associated, of course, with psychotherapy and other counseling techniques. But it has over time built into a discipline of its own and an identity of its own. Kathy Malchiori, in her work, states that creative art has been used in psychotherapy and counseling not only because of its inherent quality of safe expression, but also because of its ability to help people of all ages explore emotions and beliefs, reduce stress, resolve problems and conflicts, and enhance their sense of well-being. And of course, I've gone ahead and highlighted the parts of that that I think are very impactful. That there is this concept of a safe space being created where one can express oneself wholly, and also that there is an inherent and intuitive ability to explore emotions, beliefs, each other even. And by doing this, stress, anxiety, whatever negative emotions one could be experiencing will decrease, and problems and conflicts will then be resolved easily, and therefore one's sense of well-being is enhanced. There is no one true definition about what art therapy is. Different people adopt different methods, different ideologies and principles that fuel their work, different perspectives. They use different models of art and media of art. But I like what the British Association of Art Therapists has to say when they say art therapy is the use of art materials for self-expression and reflection in the presence of a trained art therapist, and that clients need not have previous experience or skill in art. And I know a lot of people keep thinking, but I can't draw, how can I do this? But this definition is telling us that it's not necessary. The concern is not about creating something, but it is about the process itself. No one is going to judge how beautiful this looks, how aesthetic this is at the end. And no one's going to be looking at what does this mean. It's not a diagnostic assessment in that sense. The overall aim of practitioners is to enable a client to effect personal change and growth through the use of art materials in a safe and facilitating environment. Now this sentence I really like. It's not saying that the aim is to make something happen, but to enable the client to do it. And this, it's non-hierarchical, where the power is with the client to choose what they want to do and how they want to move forward in their process of creation. That is very empowering. There are various forms of art that can be used in art therapy: visual art, drama, dance, music, play, clay work, puppets, movement, stories, poetry. anything that can be used to create and express can be used as a tool for healing and transformation. Practitioners can use art separately. They can use only clay work or only drama, or they can use everything together. There's no set and sure method of doing this. It involves the process. The emphasis is on the client's use of the artistic medium, not on what is created and how beautiful it is and how perfect were the brush strokes. That's not important. What was the technique was not important, but what was the journey? That is the focus of art therapy. There is no skill training. There is no music class that you will attend or painting class that you will attend at all. Unless it's necessary, sometimes the practitioner may choose to teach or impart a particular technique. Art therapy is versatile. It can be used with individuals as well as groups. Predominantly, the work done with art therapy is to facilitate and enable a client to access his or her own emotions, build awareness, form opinions, and understand the internal and the external, and be able to move along with it in a non-threatening, safe, secure manner. So why art? What is it about art, right? I mean, there are so many talk therapies, everything is so nice, but what is different about art? Why would one want to focus so much attention onto only the process of creation? Because all art forms share certain similar things, certain commonalities. They are all process oriented. They focus on a process. You can't say tomorrow I will paint and then it will be painted and done. But there will be a process and a manner with which you will mix the paints, you will choose your colors, you will visualize your design, and then you will start to work. So all art forms are process oriented. They are emotionally sensitive because there is such a lot of stillness and quiet in the process of creation, where a person is encouraged to go within and be silent and create, have this vision and this image in mind while creating. All art is directed and influenced by the society and the context within which we exist, without which we could not create. We are beings that are influenced by what happens around us and the society within which we live. And this is constantly being reinforced through the art that we create, that reflects all of the things that we grow up hearing, being, seeing, living. Also, the focus is completely on awareness of the self, the situation, the materials, the area. There is a lot of focus on awareness generation and building in using creative art techniques in mental health. And art is versatile, like I said before. You can use it with anyone across the lifespan. Old people benefit from it. The elderly benefit from it. Young kids who are very small love it. Children with learning disabilities benefit from art. Children with physical disabilities and challenges have so much to gain from this and benefit from this. Adolescents, teenagers, learning their place, their roles, the self and the other. All of these different contexts can be benefited from art and more. The process of creation. Now, why is art so impactful, right? It's because the process of creation, when we create something, we are constantly feeding in and feeding from what we know. We are recreating it. We are questioning it. When a child picks up a yellow color to draw a leaf or a pink color to draw an elephant, there is some reframing and recreation and expression that is happening over there as well. And when we do this, we review and we redescribe the world that we live in. We sometimes even create completely alternate worlds that we live in through the art. And that just helps us understand the current, the self, and the other. So the client is encouraged to explore new ways of looking at the world and the context within which he or she is existing in or living in, and creating new realities, creating different experiences, being able to even experience and respond to what is going on in situations through the art, through examining the finished artwork, through dialoguing about what has been created and the experience of creation. Uh, all of this allows for profound healing on a deep and inner level because of the high involvement of this individual in his or her own healing. It's not someone else that is coming in and doing the healing or doing the artwork, but it is this person itself who's sitting down and engaging with themselves. And a lot of times in this day and age, we forget. We forget that we are an integrated being with a mind and a body and heart and feelings, and we live in only one of these modalities, but art has a beautiful way of bringing it together. I think one of the biggest, most impactful takeaways for creation and art is the process of creation also enables clients to express themselves free of constraints and judgments, because there is a creation of a very safe space. I would like you to reflect at this point upon what are the client groups that you see that you see benefiting from what we've just discussed, from this process, from this perspective, and from this standpoint. What is it that we are learning here, and what is it going to impact people later? I want to talk a little bit about the impact of art-space therapy now. Yeah, so one thing is the process and everything that we've talked about until now, but what are the actual benefits? So there are benefits to the body in that the development of motor skills, eye-hand coordination, other coordination, motor coordination, stance, gait, posture, reconstitution and rehabilitation of physical impairments also begin with art therapy. There is a promotion of mental, emotional, and physical healing through art therapy. There is an enhancement of cognitive and emotional growth. Mind and body connections are built through engagement in art. Therapy and expressive arts therapy have also been seen to reduce anxiety levels and other mood disorders. Also, it helps a lot of people to identify behaviors that are counterproductive to the healing process, that don't allow people to move on. Behaviors that we may want to identify and then let go of. Art therapy is extremely profound and impactful in trauma work. Art therapy also boosts self-esteem and makes a positive image for the person to engage with oneself. Another concept is the plasticity of the brain. When we talk about that, the brain is constantly creating neural pathways and pathways that allow us to do everything that we do. And through engagement with art, these pathways are reinforced, new pathways are built, and new abilities can manifest. So there are a lot of, there is a huge impact and a huge body of work on the impact of art therapy on the brain. And I would really invite you to read about it, because studies have shown that the brain structure itself can change through continuous engagement in creative art processes. Art therapy is being used more often and more deeply with trauma work. Trauma is associated with the alteration of cortisol activity and reactivity that may vary in relationship to development, time, predisposition, personality, and the nature of the traumatic event and other circumstances. Trauma basically is when someone has experienced something that has shattered them, that has been violent and involved a near-death experience very often. And these things have a way of disintegrating the self. Art therapy works to build that back together. Oftentimes when we work with people who have experienced trauma, we see that there is a very exaggerated startle response. They hear a sound and they are afraid. And it's very involuntary because the fear is so intense as an experience for them. And a lot of times people who've been in prolonged situations of fear and trauma, their limbic system starts to kick in, which is a very flight and fight based response to existing and living. They are ready to either flee or fight, or they're constantly on guard. Their bodies are rigid. They are waiting. And that is how they live, because that has been their experience for so long. And bringing the creative arts process to this space allows an integration to happen, allows the other parts of cognitive development to build and grow, and allows the person to experience relaxation on a deep bodily and emotional level. Self-regulation is something that is brought about through creative arts, and the ability to self-soothe and firstly, understand who I am. Be aware of what drives me and what motivates me, what impacts me, and then work on those things to develop self-soothing techniques. Anything can be used as a tool for healing. As I said earlier, some of the tools that we use are visual art, which is painting, collage art, creating a group project together using different things, group paintings, music and rhythm, songs, drumming, beats that we can create with our bodies without needing too many resources, stories and metaphors, which are my personal favorite, which help people engage with their reality in an external manner, which is non-threatening to them. We use a lot of play in our sessions, even with adults, and especially with the elderly, to reconnect with our innocence and our joy, and the positive memories that we hold within us. And of course, dance and movement, which allows the body to explore its true nature. The therapeutic, I would like to talk a little bit about what it means to create this therapeutic space and what this therapeutic process would look like. When we are taking creative sessions, we use different modalities usually, and we ensure that the energy builds to a point where we then take a session with the people or the main activity, and then we ensure that the energy also closes peacefully. So we would start with maybe a little bit of a body warm-up, exercises, games, voice work, a story maybe, and then move on to embodying that story or that action through drama or dance or movement, and then closing it with maybe relaxation. And it's very important to keep that in check, to introduce what you are going to work on, then to have your main activity, to make people comfortable enough to be able to understand and assimilate what you want them to do, and then to close it down in a very respectful, safe manner. When you create this process, there should be a very clear beginning, like a ritual, and a very clear end. Again, like a ritual, it could be something as simple as saying thank you for being part of this, or really, hold hands in this circle and let's chant something together as a group. It could be that. It could be anything that you need to start and end very clearly your sessions. Therapeutic processes also would have a main goal. You would know what it is you want to achieve with this client group, and you keep that intention in mind whenever you build your sessions with them. Assessments are good. It's good to see where your work is going. You can take feedback from staff if you're in an institution, from your client itself, from family members, your own observations, and your client's artwork will speak volumes. You will see changes in painting, in technique, in style, in expression as well. Now, what is the role of the facilitator? This is the last thing I want to leave you with. Your clear intention. Always remember, what is it that I want to achieve with this group through the use of this art form? If you want to paint, or say you want to take drums in one day, or you want to sing one day, what is your intention? Holding that intention at the base of everything you do is extremely important and powerful for you and for your group or client. Preparing. You practice, you play around with the material first. Be confident about it, because when you go into the field, you will be taking that energy with you. Also prepare to know who your group is and who these people are and what is it that they need from you in this moment or want to experience in this moment. And the number one rule is be flexible. Be ready to improvise. Things very rarely go as planned, and being able to have the ability to start where your client is. Maybe you've planned a wonderful session and your client is like, today I just want to sit. Be willing to sit with your client and do something else that would come up from that moment. And I would leave you with that, with those things to reflect upon. Also, explore art for yourself. Watch videos on YouTube. Read more about art therapy. Be part of art functions, art workshops, and really build on yourself as a creator and a facilitator. Thank you so much.